Okay, good morning, everybody. It's 10:30, 10:35. I wanted to really start on time to make sure that I had enough time to get through it all. So I'm as close to 10:30 as I could be without being 10:30. We're doing Kufya tests and we're holding Nun. That's the 14th of 22 ACS. We established a pattern when we started this, almost from the very beginning, possibly from as early as Bays, that we're going to look at each sequence of 8 Pesukim as though it were a unit, like a sub-Pedic. And a lot of people say the Tillim that way also, In addition, we also adopted another custom that each of these units of 8 Pesukim, we would identify by one word, which we would, so to speak, extract, would cull from the 8 Pesukim and the spirit of the 8 Pesukim to try and understand the neshama, the pnimius of these 8 Pesukim, if you will. So for a number of them, quite a few of them actually, we successfully found one word, Nad, Eved, Nefesh, Ekev, Emes, Torah, La'olam. But by no means for all. By no means for all. When I got to these 8 Pesukim, Ois Nun, I ran into a few problems. Now, understand the meaning of the word problems. You decide what David HaMelech means, and then if David HaMelech doesn't cooperate with you, you have a problem. Nobody asked you to decide what David HaMelech meant, and therefore you shouldn't have any trouble with what David HaMelech is writing. I think my biggest problem I have with these 8 Pesukim is how negative they are. They're very bitter. They're quite bitter. I don't say very bitter, but they're quite bitter. They're quite bitter. Which is often the case. David HaMelech is very honest, very candid. David HaMelech was a very, very big tzaddik, very, very righteous man. And he also had a very, very difficult life. I mean, he's one of the greatest success stories in Yiddishkeit in the history of the world. But it certainly didn't come to him easy. He everything was hard. It's so much opposition, so many enemies. Or to say it in religious terms, he had so many tests. And he passed his test with incredible determination and resolve and principle. Mostly it was the test of not taking revenge. Mostly it was the test of not holding grudges. Mostly it was the test of accepting the judgment that the Eibishter gave him and moving forward. But he does refer often in the Sefer Tehillim, Ne'im Zemidas Yisrael, to his tzaddis and to his, not only to his tzaddis, but to his tzaddisers, not only to the Yisurim, but to the Miyasim, to the people who caused him these tzaddis. And each time you come across this, of course it saddens you. It makes you very sad. But it also befuddles you. Why is David complaining so much? Now he's entitled to complain. But he's David HaMelech, So when I got to these 8 Pesukim, Kuf Hey until Kuf Yud Beis, and you have Nafshi Bechapi Somid Besiras Alei Shachochti Na'nesi Ad Me'oid Ad Hashem Chayeni Kidvarecha, where David is referencing two things. Number one, tzaddis, and number two, the people who gave him these tzaddis. It becomes hard. It becomes hard. Nasnu Rishoyim Pachli Mi Pikudecha Leita Isi. Right there, there's 2 or 3 different psukim. we had so much negativity before. And I got to these 8 Pesukim. David HaMelech again is complaining about all the people giving me Yisurim. I don't know what the right word is. I just didn't want to talk about it anymore. I didn't want to focus on the tzaras. Three out of the 8 Pesukim are so sad. That was my first challenge in these 8 Pesukim. I've dedicated, I think, Chof and Lamed. We talked a lot about his tzaras, right? About the tzaras that came from Bathsheba and the tzaras that came from Yiches. Now, when you learn Torah, you're supposed to do what the Torah. You can't decide what David HaMelech means. Whatever David HaMelech says, that's what he has to mean. So if David HaMelech is lamenting, we have to lament. So if I don't like what David HaMelech has to say, that's tough luck on me. You know what I'm saying? But on the other hand, it's not just tough luck on me. It's hard for me to accept that David is so busy pointing out his tzaras. So that was the first problem I had when I did these 8 Pesukim. And the second problem I have with these 8 Pesukim is for the life of me, I cannot find a heart. I cannot find a soul. I cannot find a continuity. I cannot find an Akuda Amishutef as a binding point in these 8 Pesukim. So after sitting on it for a while, I did this research yesterday, and then I even sat last night and meditated on it. I sort of decided that my entire idea it's imploded. It's blown up. No. You cannot find a constant in these 8 Pesukim, which means that all the constants that we found before are coincidental. That's how I went to sleep last night. And I woke up this morning, early actually, very early, and I started looking at it again. And I came to a different conclusion. But I must say what I tell you every single morning. This is as true as me, and believe me, God knows how far I am from the truth. This is a Yid sitting and learning Tilim and teaching it. I learned the Rishonim, as I told you. I always do Rashi, Mitzudis, Even Ezra, Radak, Me'idi. And the interpretations of the translations of the Pesukim I took from these Rishonim. I'm not smart enough to make it up. I can read and translate words for the most part. Even that I can't do in its entirety. But I didn't make up the approach. But I was trying to see light in these 8 Pesukim rather than darkness. Well, guess what? This is the very first word. Neir. Neir. So I came up with the following, that there are 6 keywords, 6 keywords in these 8 Pesukim. Because it's not 6 words, it's one idea. And the idea is enlightenment, Lichtigkeit, transcendence. Or to say it in different words, the spirit of these 8 Pesukim is actually unbelievably positive. But the positivity that's communicated in these 8 Pesukim is not a positivity that comes from learning or practicing or experience. It comes from something that Hashem descends from above, like a Ruach HaKodesh, a divine spirit, a divine light. To, Rambam, when he talks about prophecy, in the Yichus Yatera, and of course the Rambam has a big arichas about Nevuah and Meir Nevuchim, a very big arichas. But something which people don't know is the Hagdama of Pirush HaMishnayos. The Rambam also talks about Nevuah. On Shas, ba'arichas. And on the Hagdama of Meir Nevuchim also. And what does the Rambam try to describe when he presents you with his philosophy of Nevuah? He describes that Nevuah is nitum zist. Nevuah is not for free. You don't become a prophet because they wish to decide it. That's an Islamic, it's a Muslim idea. A person becomes a prophet because he pushed himself to his limit. In Lashon HaChasidus, shleimus min ha'anushi, the precipice, the horizon, the ceiling that a human being is able to reach on his own. And then the Eibishter takes him across to the opposite side. And therefore, when the Rambam talks about prophecy, he describes at length the prerequisites, the conditions needed in the human being that the possibility of prophecy exists. Chocham, Oshir, Gibir, one of the in the Chazal. There's many midas. I think that Rambam only brings three. There's a Sikh and Lekut Sichas Chelik Al Gimel Ba'aloischa, where the Rebbe discusses why the Rambam brings certain of the midas that the Chazal say that are requisites, prerequisites for Nevuah, and not other midas. And just one, Giber, that Mizgaber Yisri B'chol Eis, Ve'ein Yisri Mizgaber Olav Afilu Pa'amachas Kol Chayv. One of the prerequisites for Nevuah is that a person who's never given into the Yitzhak in his life, once, Giber. So Nevuah has so much to do with human perfection. And as the Rebbe, of course, explains that even though we say that halachically you're not allowed to say that Poska Nevuah and this Batla Nevuah, you can only say Nistalka Nevuah, which means prophecy doesn't end. There's simply no prophets. The difference between saying prophecy ended and there's no prophets, prophecy ended means the Rebbe took it away. Rebbe holds you can't say that because of the klal of Hakel Bidei Shamayim Chutz Meyiras Shamayim. Since prophecy is about people's worthiness, Hakel Menabi as Bnei Ha'adam, emphasis as Bnei Ha'adam. Hashem would never say, I'm not going to let you become a prophet. It's simply that there may not be a person who's Roy Shetishra Olav Shechina. So if nobody deserves Nevuah, so the fact is there's no Nevi'im. But it doesn't mean that Nevuah interrupted. It means that the reality of Nevuah has ceased because there's nobody Roy Shetishra Olav Shechina, that the Shechina should rest upon him. And the Rambam has a very interesting expression when talking about this, that a Navi does many things to prepare himself for Nevuah. He works on his midas, works on his deis, takes care of his health, works on his chokhmah. He has to learn other chokhmahs a little bit, like it says in different places. And then he does the practice of Nevuah. The practice of Nevuah basically is called Bedidus. He hangs out with other Nevi'im. There's a very strong emphasis on being in a good mood, being besimcha, and in a state of Bedidus, aloneness, solitude. And it finishes with these words, L'pa'amim yishre, l'pa'amim lo yishre. Sometimes the Nevuah rests, and sometimes the Nevuah doesn't rest. Until the Nevuah rests, that human being, according to the Rambam, is categorized as Bnei HaNavi, Ben HaNavi. He's not a prophet, he's a Navi in training. Once a Navi experiences Nevuah, even once, Rambam writes, Nepach le'ish acher, he becomes a different human being, he'll never be the same again. Even if he never experiences Nevuah for the rest of his life again, the experience of prophecy is transformative for a lifetime. Because it's enlightenment. It's higher than seichel. It's not the wisdom of God, it's godly light, it's godliness. And a person who experiences spirituality, enlightenment, is inspired from the top down. And it changes how his brain works and how his heart feels and how his senses sense and how his body reacts. He becomes a different human being because he's been enlightened from the top. And I believe that that's what these Pesukim are doing. It's a series of words that all connote, they all indicate in different ways transcendence. The David HaMelech is describing himself as a human being who's achieved transcendence. There's a light in his life. There's an enlightenment in his life, which is not only his own efforts, it's not only his own work, it's a divine gift. And this divine gift raises David HaMelech up, or empowers David HaMelech with a power and with a light which is so transcendent that this is how he overcomes, deals with the difficulties of his life. I want you to know that the Rambam in Nevuah, when he talks about Nevuah, the first two levels, he divides Nevuah into three categories: Ruach HaKodesh, Chaloim, and Mare, or Mar'o. Ruach HaKodesh is the lowest, Chaloim is the second, and Mare is the third, even though it goes back and forth. The first two levels are called Ruach HaKodesh. There's a Ruach HaKodesh which affects the body, and there's a Ruach HaKodesh which affects the mind. The examples for Ruach HaKodesh affects the body brings Shimshon Agib. But the poem Ruach and the rest of the Ruach Hashem, Shimshon Agib got a Ruach that Pashat made him physically strong, courageous, and he would go and kill Plishtim. It's called a Ruach Elikim. It's a form of prophecy, that just the empowerment, yeah. And then of course you have the Ruach HaKodesh that makes a person an extra chocham, like it says in Chazal, that the Nevi'im are written, the Ksuvim are written by Ruach HaKodesh. And above that, there's an Nevuah. It's an even higher level. And that's the spirit of these Pesukim. Neir l'ragli v'oyer. Neir oyer. Neir means light, oyer means light. And in these 8 Pesukim, you have a number of different forms, words, that allude, that denote, that suggest this notion of transcendence. And that's what David is doing here. He mentions his tzaras, but he's not lamenting his tzaras. At least that's how we're learning it. Even though the Mitzudah, some of the Mefarshim, see these Pesukim as quite negative, we're not going to read it this way. We're going to say, in spite of, because David is experiencing enlightenment, Neir and Oir and other things, the problems that he would otherwise would be so preoccupied with and so consumed by, he's above them because of this enlightenment, because of this Ruach HaKodesh. Now, Rabbi said, I want to repeat what I just said a second time. I use a different form, okay? And I talk about this often because I like the subject. And that's how teachers are. They teach what they want to teach. One of the most interesting areas of Jewish thought, which is to a very, very great extent separated from the mainstream, from Lomdus, Malocha, from Gemara, Pilpul, is Taimei HaMitzvahs. What are the reasons for mitzvahs? And of course, there's numerous different levels or categories of Taimei HaMitzvahs. Some of them are philosophical, some of them are based on mysticism, and some of them are based on Chassidus, different categories of Taimei HaMitzvahs. In the world of Rambam and Rasag, who are philosophers, Chekre Yisrael, there's two categories. And in Sifrei Musa, you have this as well. The lowest category of Taimei HaMitzvahs is Midas Tevis. The Torah teaches us good Midas. The second category of Taimei HaMitzvahs is Deus Nachenes. First, a person has to work on his character, to be kind and forgiving and be ma'avid al mideisav and not to react with anger and so on. Then he has to develop good attitudes, good ethos in his mind, that his brain should think this way rather than this way, And that's a very deep exercise. And the mitzvahs harness us and give us Deus Nechenes. These are two logical categories of Taimei HaMitzvahs which are brought on all the Rishonim, which are not based on Sifrei Kabbalah. This is above those two. Higher than the Inyan of Taimei HaMitzvahs as Midas Tevis. Higher the idea of Taimei HaMitzvahs as Deus Nechenes. There's Taimei HaMitzvahs which have to do with Eir Eliki, with an experience of divine light. Now you could say that this is almost a Kabbalistic idea, but you could read it into Rambam as well. Rambam believes in Nevuah. It's one of the Seder Hadas, one of the Ikri Emunah. Rambam doesn't deny prophecy. He just defines it as a much more intellectual and much less spiritual than we would. Much more about intellect and much less about enlightenment than we would in Kabbalah and in Hasidus. But this is what's happening here. There's David HaMelech's Midas Tevis, which you learn from the Torah. There's David HaMelech's Deus Nechenes, which you learn from the Torah. Or to say it in different words, and one of the Mefarshim alludes to it, there is David HaMelech's Yiddishkeit based on Kabbalah, what he accepted from his ancestors. There's David HaMelech's Yiddishkeit, which is based on his boneness and his own intellect, on his contemplation. And then there's David HaMelech's Yiddishkeit, which is based on the Eibishter giving him a light. Nir, Leragli, Oir, Linisivasi. And that's what these 8 Pesukim talk to. They talk to David HaMelech's fortitude, or being fortified by Oir Eliki, by a transcendent light, above Midas Tevis, above Deus Nechenes, above Kabbalah, that means doing mitzvahs out of acceptance, acquiescence, above Seichel, above mitzvahs based on logic and philosophy, enlightenment. Okay? This is what we're going to be doing. What are my collection of words? Neir, which means a candle. Oil, which means a light. Nishbaiti, which means to swear or to have sworn. And of course in Hasidus, the root of this is also from the word savia, to be sated, to be enriched. Nochalti, an inheritance. An inheritance also is something which is bigger than a person. Sisoin libi, the joy of my heart, the gladness of my heart. And le'ela mekiv, the eternity of the heel. Le'ela mekiv, I'm mistranslating it completely. The eternity of the heel. You'll see when we get to it. It's the various last words in Pasuk Kuf Yud Beis. And I want to go through each of these 8 words now and explain them to you one by one. And then we're going to read the 8 Pesukim, and it should go pretty quickly. Once we get through the 8 words, the 8 Pesukim are not going to take that long. It's 6 words, right? First of all, candles, Neir. The first thing about a Neir is what it says in Hasidus, and you should know here's a very basic contradiction within Hasidus itself. In Tanya, when they talk about a Neir, they mean a fire. It's in Tanya Perek Yutes, and you get a Tshuva Perek Dalet. Neir means a fire. But in the Maimonic Hasidus, and Kutatera and Teira Eir, Ner means anything but the fire. The cup, the fuel, and the wick. Everything that holds the fire. And this contradiction, by the way, is pointed out in the Maimorim. How come in the Tanya Ner it means the fire, and in the Maimorim Teresh Balpev Hasidus it means the Kli? But let's talk about each one in turn. Ner means what holds fire. Ner l'ragli v'recha. Your words are a candle to my feet. In other words, they're a means by which I can have a connection to Ruach HaKodesh. The Ner itself would not constitute yet the Ruach HaKodesh. Lansish, Chassidus brings always Lansish, right? On the idea, the word menorah, right? When you get to Chanukah, you have a menorah, Lansish, a candelabra, a keli for it. So the first definition of Ner means, of course, something that conducts light. It isn't the light itself, it's what holds the light. Beyond that, of course, you have Beit Kines HaChometz Le'er HaNer, right? The sugya v'dikas chometz is connected to a candle. And over there it means the light of the candle, not the receptacle. And what do you say about a candle? That it's yafa lahachnas l'chudim u'lizdakim. You're not allowed to use it to anavuka, and I'll use a torch for several reasons. One, you're afraid of fire, and the other is that it creates too much shadow. A candle is small, and you can look into cracks, crevices. And he brings Pesukim. If you got to L'Shenis, when I haven't learned Pesukim in many years, Tchapsena, you want to look in dark places, you use a candle. So the word candle, first of all, means what holds light. Second of all, that shines a small light, and because it shines a small light, you can get it into small cracks and crevices. You can see the darkest points and places because the light is able to be brought so close. Then, of course, finally, Ner is b'dei Adam. People make a candle. People strike a match and light a candle, and they have oil. So Ner means taka oil, a keli for oil, and a small oil, but an oil to the shaykhs to people. Oil, on the other hand, light. When you say the word light, you mean the light of the sun. Now, you wouldn't even realize that you mean that, but if you'll think about it, you'll realize that's what you mean. Because that's the preeminent light. The light of this world is the sunlight. Now, of course, at night we put on bulbs and all kinds of fixtures, yeah? But nothing is in all the energy in the world, all the lights in the world, do not amount to the Eir HaShemesh, the sun's light. And of course, the sun is a massive, massive beacon of light and heat and energy and many other things. And it gives light to the whole world. My father always teaches me that the sunlight does not illuminate the darkness. It makes the condition of the world lichtig. And the proof is that sometimes in Chassidus they use the word Eir HaShemesh, which means sunlight. And sometimes in Chassidus they use the word Eir HaYom, daylight. What's the difference between daylight and sunlight? It's the same thing. Sunlight means a light which comes from the sun. Daylight means the light that shows that it's day, or it's day because there's light. And in the word daylight, and Eir HaYom, this is found in Chassidus, you're emphasizing that light is so natural to the earth that it's not a chiddush. Even though it's coming from millions of miles away, the Eibishter made this world to be filled with light. And when the light fills the world, it's not illuminating the darkness, it's an illuminated environment. It's a lichtige Platz. And that's what the word conjures up, a lichtigkeit. Yeah. So of course there's the famous Yichud from the Rebbe in the early years, where the Rebbe analyzes the word light and says a very simple observation. Light changes nothing. And light changes everything. Light changes nothing means to say that when you have a room and everything has a place, when you put the light on, nothing moves. The book doesn't move from here to here, the chair doesn't move from here to there, the food doesn't get brought into the table, but you can see. And of course, one of the most important components of seeing is not only you see everything in the room, you see all the relationships, the yachas, and the distances, and therefore the purpose. And the order, the logic behind how the room is laid out, the room is designed. So oir means something which is from above. That on the one hand it's a makiv, it changes nothing. But on the other hand it's meyid, it illuminates the environment, and by illuminating the environment, in a way it changes everything. And that's the meaning of the word oir, lichtigkeit. Number 3, shvua. Shvua means to swear. And the Rishonim say take. There's so many different opinions. Some Rishonim say that Shvua doesn't mean that David HaMelech actually swore, but that he dedicated himself, he committed himself as if he made a Shvua. I think this is a Radak or a Me'idi. And some people say, no, David made a Shvua, but not now, hundreds of years ago. Because it says in Pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu made a krisis bis with Yidden, and he says, Eis asher yeshne pei ve'eis asher anenu pei. David makes a covenant, he makes a krisis bris, he makes a shvua, a vow with every Jew who's here and who's not here. And of course, this goes ad save kol adedis. Until the end of time, David made a shvua with all Yidden. So this is not only that David made a commitment as if he swore, but he actually swore, but not in this lifetime, another lifetime. And of course, lastly, nishbata means he actually swore, like you have in halacha. One of the gedalim of a shvua is called a shvua zeiruzin. People used to swear as a way of protecting themselves from doing an aved. A person has a weakness, and of course, this gets very tricky. You have to look at the Nedarim and Shvuas and Rambam, whether you're better off with the shvua, you're better off without the shvua, because the worst thing, of course, could be you make the shvua and you don't keep it. It's worse than not making the shvua in the first place. That's what Chazal say. You're better off not making Nedarim and Shvuas. But there's a concept of a nidrei or shvuas and zeiruzin. You make a shvua as an extra zirus, or that a yid is mushba ve'emed mahar Sinai, right? You cannot make a shvua against the Torah. You can make a neder against the Torah, but you can't make a shvua against the Torah. Why? Because we all swore at Har Sinai, Nasav, and Ishma, and you can't make a shvua to mevatel an existing shvua. So I just gave you 4 definitions: a commitment as if he swore, an ancient shvua, a shvua that David made during his physical lifetime, which is a shvua zeiruz, and he made a shvua to help him stay off the Yetzer Hara, or the idea that at Matan Torah, Klal Yisrael is mushba ve'emed. We have a pre-existing shvua to Kadosh Baruch Hu for the kiyum of Tayag mitzvahs and so on. So David HaMelech speaks of the power that comes from shvua, and of course, all of us know what Chassidus has to say. And the Vesach, it's brought in the Tzemach Tzedek's Kurim Tzemach Ha'aretz. The Rebbe spoke about it many times, based on the very first words of the Sefer Tanya Kadisha, Mashpiyan Eiseti Tzadik Bal Teirash. That Mashpiyan is read Masbiyan, Menzetik done, you empower, you sate, you fill with koiches, that it should be able to be a Benyan Eti Tzadik Bal Teirash. And that's also included in the word Shvu. So all of these ideas are consistent with my proposal that David HaMelech is talking about a sense of power which comes from higher than his Midas Tevis, it comes higher than his Deis, comes higher than his Kabbalah, higher than his Haskalah, his Bonanus, it comes from the Eibishter. And the 4th word, of course, is Nachalti, I inherited. And again, some of the Mefarshim say that people who inherit something, they guard it, they protect it fiercely, because I spent some time looking this up. It's called Pagam Mishpach, Kavod Mishpach, Pagam Mishpach. If a family who inherited an estate sells some of their estate, especially if they sell a cemetery which has their deceased relatives in it, or they sell a piece of property that carries the name of the head of the family, there's a special halacha of it coming back to them because of Kavod Mishpach, Mishum Pagam Mishpach. So when something is inherited, you don't give it up quick. Something is inherited, it's yours in an inherent way. And the fact that you inherit it makes it inherently valuable to you, and you're in no rush to give it up because of the power that lies within it, which is an inheritance. In addition, in Chassidus, right, in Teira, it's Meirosha Kils Yankiv, there's a level of Teira, which is called Schar, Isarusad Latata, Isarusad we earn. There's a level of Teira, which is called Matana, Isarusad Latata, Le'ela, Shalamayla, Isarusad Latata, Isarusad Le'ela. It's from something that Hashem gives. We had it yesterday in the Maimed. When some place is perfect and whole, a transcendent light comes down. And then finally, that every Yid inherits the whole Torah, like the halacha is. Tinik ben Yemi Yeresh Hakela, Ibur is a very major problem, but Tinik ben Yemi is Yeresh Hakela. So Yerusha means every Jew owns the entirety of the Torah. It's ours. Like the Rebbe used to tell people by dollars. And in Yechidus, and when you bring a person closer to the Eibishter, you're not changing their life, you're revealing the truth of who they are, which is that they're servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the connotation of the word nachala. It's an inheritance. It's who I am inherently. And then you have number 5, Sisoin Levi, joy. Joy. What's joy? What's the difference between a person who's doing something happily and a person who's doing something not happily? Nothing. Same action, same act, same thing. But joy changes everything. Just like light changes nothing, or changes everything, joy changes nothing and changes everything. A person that does things in a schlepped, depressed way is in a very sad state. A person does exactly the same thing, does with energy, and with joy is in a very, very uplifted state, but it's a whole different situation. David HaMelech conceives that not only is he dedicated to Torah and Aveda in a singular way, but he's doing it with simcha. And the joy gives him koyach. The joy gives him power to deal with all of his enemies and all of his tzaddis, do the right thing, and so forth and so on. So this is Son Yeshecha, the gladness of the joy, the same libi that David HaMelech has, is the koyach that he needs to, his enemies shouldn't be enemies. And of course, this is the halacha of Pikudei Ad Hashem Yishar Masam Chalev. Why not allowed to learn Tisha B'Av Torah? Because Tisha B'Av is pasta is asa nechamishi inuyim. Not allowed. The 5 things which give a person pleasure are not allowed. And the foundation for them is all the simcha. And Torah makes a person happy. Now I tell this to my students. I teach teenagers. How many people say that they learn Torah gives them pleasure? Most people learn Torah, they feel tortured. But the raya that a person understood the Torah correctly is that it made him happy. If you learn Torah and you understand that you're happy, it makes a person joyous. And David HaMelech joy comes before. I had an email exchange with someone the other day who writes, how can I be happy? I have Avedis. So I said, you'll be happy, you won't have Avedis. But first has to come the happiness. And this is what says in Tanya, Yid has to have a koyach for simcha, not because his life is good, so that life should be good. And that's like saying Yishach. And the last of the 6 words is the word Le'ila Mekiv. This is really just pushing it forever to heal. In other words, till the very end, till the very lowest level, David is dedicated and precise, based on the fact that there's a Neid, and that there is an Oyer, and that there is a Shavua, and that there is a Nachal, there is a Sasein Libi. But David HaMelech, you don't necessarily that all of these midas has to show itself all the way until the end. Rabbi said, this is a review of my introduction to these 8 Pesukim. Okay? Give me 1 minute and I'll be right back and then we'll continue. Okay, I apologize, but I'm back. Okay? So now let's do what we always do. Let's take out the green Tillim, my favorite Tillim, and we're going to learn and translate these 8 Pesukim first on a simple level, and then we'll go over them a little bit deeper. It's not, I don't have much to say. Whatever I have to say, I said already. You know what I'm saying? I gave you what I think is the code to these 8 Pesukim. Whether it's true or false, I don't know, but it's certainly uplifting. Pasuk Kuf Hey, Neir leragli devarecha. Your words are a candle to my feet. Ve'er lenisivase, and it's a light that illuminates my paths, my little alleyways, my little mesilos, small little, what is he trying to mean? Path. He doesn't, mesilos means a thin little pathway. Nishbati va'akayema. I swore, and I'm going to keep my promise. Or I was empowered, and that gives me the power to keep my promises. Lishme, to guard mishpatei tzedkecha, the judgment of your righteousness. Nanesi ad miyoit. I was tortured until the point of miyoit. Adeshem, God Almighty, chayeni, give me life, kidverecha, as your word, as you promised. Nidvais pi. This pasuk I just can't place. Nidvais pi. The generous offering of my words. Ritzeina Hashem, take favorably. Umishpatach alamdeini, and as a consequence of that, I want you to teach me the mishpat of the Torah. Nafshi bechapi samid. My soul is in my hand always, which is described by most of the Rishonim, is I live under desperate duress, like as if I'm holding my life and I could drop it. I refuse to forget your Torah. Nosnu reshoyim pachli, the evil doers have given me a pach, stumbling blocks, one after the next. I refuse to go astray from your commandments. I inherited your witness forever. Because it makes my heart joy. I leaned forward with my heart to do your edicts. Let me how he translates it in English. Until the end of my days. La'ila Meikav means till the end of the end. La'ila means forever, and Eikav means forever. There's a double lashon. La'ila Meikav. This is the simple taich of these 8 psukim, and now we're going to read them. Like I said, I don't have a lot to add, but we're going to speak in the spirit of the introduction. The David is describing a transcendent bracha that he was given of light, of enlightenment, which is called by many names. It's called Neid, it's called Eid, it's called Shvuah, it's called Nachla, it's called Simcha, it's called Ekev. And he uses us to live, so that his challenges are almost non-challenges. Your words are a candle for my feet, ve'ed, and a light linsivasi, to the pathways that I walk. The feet, of course, connote to the lowest level of a person. Right, like it says even in Nambam, and again to the Eibish, the lowest level. And of course, we all know that it's on the level of the feet. It's in the secondary areas that people fail. In other words, everybody is careful about big things, but we tend to be not so careful about little things. What's called take mitzvah she'odem dosh ba'akevav, akev, which is the very last word of this sequence. And David HaMelech says, Leragli, what keeps my feet, even my feet, in line is Neir. Is a light which reads all the way till the feet, and it's Dvarecha. The words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu don't only provide David HaMelech with Midas, Tevis, and Deus Nechenes. Or, the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu don't only provide David HaMelech with a Kabbalah and with a Haskalah, but with a Neir, with a light. And that light serves my regel, my feet, that they should go in the right direction. You know, oftentimes you have to make judgments. And the judgments have to be evaluated. You have to consider them. What's the right thing and what's the wrong thing? So usually you can use your mind to determine what's the correct judgment and what's the incorrect judgment. Sometimes there is no easy answer. And you resort to intuition, to intuitiveness. And that's neir. You know, when you're not sure, your instinct, your lichtigkeit, your oid, if you're zoichet, have a ruach hakodesh, gives you the right instinct. And when it comes to small little things, which are represented by the word regel and the word nesiv means a little path, the things that are likely for people to err because they're so insignificant relative to bigger things, called the regel and nesiv, you need a neid and a noir. a lichtigkeit, a candle, and a light that even in the the shadowy alleys where the sun's light never reaches, the Oir HaTorah, the Neid HaTorah, the Neid Mitzvah, and Oir HaTorah reach to give clarity so that we should go in the right direction. And that's the meaning of these words. To my feet, the Torah is a Neid, your words are a Neid, and the Torah to my pathways, to my walking in thin, narrow, mesiles and nesivas alleyways is the Torah's Oir. And again, the point is that it's not just that I'm smart and I figured it all out, but that I feel something above me which is enlightening my challenge and give me direction. Nishbati, I was empowered. I swore today, yesterday, this lifetime, a different lifetime. But I was given power. I was enriched with the spirit of Yiddishkeit, v'akaimo, and therefore I'm going to v'akayemo. I will remain vibrant, alive in myself. Lishba mishpatei tzedkecha, that I should guard the judgment of your judgment, right? Tzedek means judgment and mishpat means judgment. But the word tzedek has a more gvura connotation, even than the word mishpat. Mishpat is a bit softer. And mishpat tzedek means that the judgment sometimes can be hard. And lishmer mishpatei tzedkecha means even when the judgment is hard, the shavua that we made, or the empowerment that they were given, the enlightenment that we were given, either because David HaMelech virtually swore, or David HaMelech actually swore, or David HaMelech's neshama swore at Har Sinai, or if mushba of the Eibush, the mushba, or nishba l'kayim es hamitzvah, because of nishba zeruz, shvua zeruzin, it gives me the koyach to overcome the challenge and to do mitzvahs with a great precision. And even when nanesi, I have been challenged and tortured, ad ma'oid, I'm translating the word ma'oid in an extreme way, that it touches my infinity, which is the yechida, ad ma'oid, that it even touches the deepest levels of the neshama. Usually when a person is challenged, it's a challenge on lower levels. And if a person can reveal higher levels, they're above the challenge. David's saying, nanesi ad ma'oid, I have been tortured to the point that the challenge reaches even the deepest levels of the neshama. Hashem, God, which also means lichtigkeit, oir. The shem havaya goes nalakus. Chayeni kidverecha. Now the literal translation is chayeni is a verb. Give me life as you promised. But we're going to read chayeni kidverecha. The presence of havaya gave me life, has given me life. Kidverecha, as your word spoke. When the yid has a sense of oir eliki, and of course David HaMelech doesn't only have a sense, he has an experience of a transcendent holiness, it gives life. It's not just survival, it's living. And then he says in Kufches Nidves Pi, the generosity of my mouth, Ritzeina Hashem. I'm going to translate, receive generously. I'm giving you what I consider to be nadvonos, right? Kol Nediv Leiv. Nediv Leiv means you're giving him derech nadvonos. What do the Rishonim say on this pasuk? One of the Rishonim translates the word Nedivas HaLeiv as Kol Nadav Loshen Ratzon. This is Rashi. I'd love to attach this Rashi to Pashas Truma. Kol Nediv Libe. The meaning of the word Nadav is to give joyfully, with an interest and with a positivity. So David says, Nidves Pirit say, I am giving an Nadav with my full will, and I'm hoping it received by the Eibishter with his full will. And of course, we all understand why this is a challenge, because you can never meet Hashem's expectations. You're human and he's God. So the Nadvonos Alev, the generosity of the heart of the greatest Yid, compared to the Eibush, is not sufficient. And David says, Nidves Pirit say, receive with your generosity what I am giving with my generosity, Havaya. And of course, the way you would explain this, based, of course, what's written in Chassidus, is this principle, B'chol Moedecha. It's translated in English with all your might, and it's translated in Chassidus as your infinity. So Chassidus says the Moedecha is the word Moed Shelcha, your personal infinity. And what's infinite to you is finite to somebody else, and what's finite to you is infinite to a third person. And what's infinite to somebody else is even more infinite to somebody else beyond. So there is a personal bligvul. And when a person brings forward in his relationship with the Eibishter what is for him Nadvanas Halev, the best he can do, he asks the Eibishter that the Eibishter should reciprocate with his Nadvanas Halev. Like it says in Chassidus, that when you give your miyoid, you're not expecting the Eibishter to respond by giving back to your miyoid with what's the equivalent of what you gave him. but you're expecting him to give back his miyoid. When you give your infinity, you want God to give God's infinity. God's infinity is so much more than mine. Hatzad shava shebehem, it's miyoid. And that's the pshat, nidve spirit say, I'm giving with the best of my will, and I'm asked maybe to reciprocate, not based on what I gave, but based on his will. And that's the meaning of this pasuk, nidve spirit say no havaya. And again, he used the word havaya, which means oir. Now, in the context of these 8 psukim, I don't know where to put this. Even if you learn it in pshat, pasuk kuf ches seems to be standing alone. It's a pasuk. When I was reading this pasuk, it's when I really had this machshava zara, maybe my whole thing is all baba maisis, and every pasuk has to be read separately, and because there's no way to understand this pasuk in the scheme of these 8 psukim. I'm reading it, I'm translating it, I don't know how it fits, unless you say that the word is when the Eibishter gives the key. It's what calls out of David HaMelech a nidivas halev, that it should give Hashem, if wir sagt mit dem ganzen Herzen, with all of his will, with all of his joy, with all his positivity, and he's asking the Eibishter to say Nahavai, that Hashem should give back with all of his will, with all of his positivity. And he finishes with the words, Umishpatach lamdeni, teach me Torah. Teach me Torah. So one of the Rishonim translates the word lamdeni for the word hergel, which means make Torah second nature to me. That when a person is a Yid, ben advanis, he doesn't just do it, but he does it with joy and with generosity. And the Eibishter rewards him with an advanis milmailo lamato. Hashem gives him back with the generosity. The result of this is that Yiddishkeit becomes a regel, becomes his normal, becomes his hergel, becomes something which is very natural to him. And even though Nafshi Bechapi Summit, there are occasions where I feel like I have my soul in my own hands, meaning to say the only thing standing between me and the abyss is me. I feel so unsupported, so desperate. And the Rishonim explained the words, I'm holding it in my hand, and if I tremble, it'll fall. And there's no net, there's no safety net. Nevertheless, I refuse to forget the Torah. So David is saying, even when I find myself in such desperate moments, I fall back on the Ner Leragli Vedel Nisivasi. The Eibishter has given me a richness, that even when it seems very, very dark, and that light or that enlightenment seems so far away, I know it's there. And therefore, I don't forget your Torah. As I explained in earlier class, it doesn't say but I cannot forget it. And of course, the word Torah and the word Oyer, as I told you, the Lichtigkeit and the Torah, you don't forget. So I must tell you this word, this Maise, and I've told it to you before, that there was a Yid who was very ill. And he passed away very, very young. And he had, in the year leading up to his passing, he had these little heart attacks, warnings. This goes back a long time, it's over 50 years. And in Yechidus, he told the Rebbe that he feels like he's walking on eggshells, like he's walking on air. He doesn't feel any security because at any moment they can have another one of these triggers. So he spoke in Yiddish to the Rebbe. Ich feel like I'm laying on air. And the Rebbe answered, du liegst bei dem Eibishter in the hand. You're laying in Hashem's embrace, in Hashem's hand. The opposite of nafshi bechapi is nafshi bechapoi. You understand? I'm not reliant on me, I'm reliant on him. But David says, even when I feel like nafshi bechapi, nevertheless, teraschalei shachochti. Kufyud nosnu rishoyim pachli, the evil ones have placed for me stumbling blocks. Still, mi pekadecha leita isi, I don't go astray. And again, here I want to point out, why does a person go astray? Because they get lost. Why does the person get lost? Because they get confused. Why does the person get confused? Because he loses his balance, loses his equilibrium. So usually you rely on your mind, but sometimes it gets so convoluted, so confusing that your mind is not enough. I need to fall back to your instincts, to your guts, to your viscera, as it's called. And that's Ner Leragli and Edli Nesivosi Nishpati Vakayemo and Sustainly Behemo. That's the oir, the light of Hashem, which gives us that clarity. I inherited your witness. La'olam, from the beginning of time until the end of time. And of course, the connotation of the word inheritance is that my relationship with this is deeper than my choice. It's who I am, not what I do. It's who I am, but not what I did. And in inheritance, you don't give up. You don't sell it. You don't sell somebody that you inherited. Key, why is Yiddishkeit for me an inheritance? Because the same behavior. It gives me joy. I don't just do it. It gives me joy. And therefore, Natisi li bilastes chokecha, I lean my heart to do all the things you said, including the things that I don't understand, Le'ela Mekev, forever and ever. Le'ela Mekev means all the way down to the lowest level of the heel. And of course, you know that it says in Amban that Ekev means schar, right? Ekev Tishmun goes on the schar, which is going to be Liasad Lavi. La'ela Mekev, because the reward is forever, or the reward will be at the end of time, or the reward is the truth of the mitzvahs that we're doing. And David HaMelech is saying, my dedication to Torah is based on the enlightenment that the Eibishter gave me at the beginning, Ne'er ve'er, Nishbaiti, Nachalti, Sesen Libi, and it's based on the Eir which Eibishter is going to give me at the end of time. That's the meaning of the word Leila Mekev, that in the end we're going to get Ekev. Even the heel is going to shine. Right? From Amam Chazal, that the Akave shall Avra Adam Marishan Hayamacha Gagal Chama, before the original Siddur, the heel of Adam Marishan was brighter than Gagal Chama, whatever Gagal Chama means. So there's an idea that even the Ekev can have a lichtigkeit. Leila Mekev. And that'll be Liyasid Lavi. And tomorrow we'll do Samach. Ve'ezer Hashem Yisbarach v'Yasala.